Thank you so much, everyone, for still staying with us. Now we are moving on to the conversation proper, and that's talking about the issue of nutrition and COVID 19. Let me give you a little bit of the background so you understand better. Nigeria has the second highest number of children affected by malnutrition globally, with more than 2.5 million suffering from severe acute malnutrition, and only 2 of every 10 affected children are able to access treatment. Nigeria also has the second highest burden of stunted children in the world, with a national prevalence rate of 32% of children under 5. With Nigeria's heavy reliance on oil as an economic driver, the recent decline in oil prices due to COVID 19 has had a devastating impact. Adding to the pain, many Nigerians are now on lockdown, unable to earn the daily wage that allows them to treat themselves and their families. And this is what we shall be looking at this beautiful morning. We have a guest in the house. He is a nutritionist, a food technology expert, Dr. Bola Olatunjoye. It's good to have you here this morning.
It's nice having you on this program.
Yes, we all know what this pandemic has done globally, not just about Nigeria, and that it has been a serious issue that people are trying to cope and live around it. And now talking about nutrition and having adequate diet, what is the state we are in now, and what are the prospects?
Well, thank you very much, Rachel. If we look at this challenge of COVID-19 pandemic, it has affected virtually every aspect of human endeavor, including the subject of context which we are discussing this morning, that has to do with the concept of nutrition. Well, I like to say that this is not the first pandemic that we will have, and perhaps it will not be the end, but somehow the society has been able to evolve out of some of these challenges over time. I think if we chronicle this down the line, in 1720 there was the bubonic pandemic, in 1820 there was the cholera pandemic, in 1920 there was the Spanish flu pandemic, and maybe down the line in the centenary stuff, we are also having the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's something that is still we're going to come out of this, but we should also look inward to see some of the challenges this thing has unfolded for us and how, as a human society, we can also face this. And because we know that within time, it's going to fizzle out.
Over time we've been talking about there is no cure for COVID 19, but then we talk about immune boosters. And that is what most people are actually saying, that people should actually find a way of boosting their immune system. What are your thoughts on this?
Let me take you down the line. In our primary school, we were taught about elementary science, where we have different classes of food to told us about carbohydrates, the proteins, vitamins, the minerals. It's still what we still need to understand, that there are certain classes of food that can help to boost our immunity. And we could really look at most of the fruits and vegetables that we have. And, because God has so much blessed us, we have some of these things around us, but we may not pay adequate attention to them. But with what is happening now, and in recent time, there's been an increased awareness for people to understand the immune boosting properties or capacity of some of these fruits and vegetables.
Over the time we've been talking about healthy diets, but you now discover some people are saying that these fruits are way beyond their budget. They just want something to fill their tummy and not to add extra cost. And so getting fruits and vegetables that you mentioned, how easy is it for the common man?
Well, I want to believe if you look at the classes of food, fruit and vegetables still remains one of the classes of food that are not so expensive. You see them on the shelf, you go to the malls, you go around the street. Even while growing up, for those of us who grew up in the countryside, you can see that even when you are growing, you can see some fruits from the tree, throw stones at them. We see them as fun because we didn't really pay attention to them. But it's something that is cheaply available, and God has so much made it that each season evolves with certain fruits and vegetables that we can take.
And that takes me to the issue of food processing, as it were, because we know that some of these fruits are perishables. We may not get them all around the year. So how do we now begin to preserve some of these things?
Well, if we look at in terms of processing, there are different processing methods that we could adopt. Um, Traditionally speaking, we've been used to, oh, add salt to the food, it's going to preserve it. Some, like, they want to roast, they want to apply temperature. Some want to apply higher temperature, some want to apply lower temperature. But over time, technology has evolved to give us different processing methods that we can use to preserve foods. And though it may still be a challenge in the developing countries in terms of preservation of foods, but still notwithstanding, it's still a concept that we need to adopt by various
But what are
multi-sectoral.
these challenges that you actually think that we are having as of now?
For example, when we talk about power supply, because for some of these fruits and vegetables, they need lower temperature to maintain their quality. And when you don't have some of these facilities to be able to power them, then it becomes a challenge because over time, by the time you have a bulk of them, over 50% of them are lost to global resources.
Let me actually take this particular quote from a Greek physician. It said that, may your food be your medicine and your medicine your food. In Nigeria, are we eating right?
Well, I think when it comes to our dietary intake, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the concept of culture tends to take precedence. Um, we grow up knowing that, okay, just eat. We don't even know the content of what we are eating. An average person who is a peasant farmer or the low income, as a low income state, people prefer to take more of the carbohydrates. And that's some of the challenges that we have that leads to some of these diabetes. And we don't know. We don't really include fruit and vegetables as part of our daily diet. But with the onset of some of the diseases that are popping up now, people are beginning to see the reality of taking some of these foods that will help boost our immunity.
And another thing is that our eating habits in Nigeria, and that means we have to choose them wisely, like you mentioned. We should not rely on carbohydrates majorly. But then that takes me to our agricultural production. Are we taking agriculture serious in Nigeria? Over the years, federal government have been talking about diversification into the agricultural sector. How serious are we when it comes to diversification?
Well, I think, well, the government is trying to see a way of diversifying the economy away from the oil sector because of the new crisis at the global level of downward trends in the oil sector. But I think the government is trying their best, but they still need to do more. They need to pull all the people within the population, they need to pull all the stakeholders together. And let's see that there is no nation that could thrive beyond our capacity for agriculture. Even the oil we're talking about in the United States is under the Food and Agri Department because it's coming from the soil. So the government is trying, but I think they need to put in more effort.
Inside the government is trying, but we know we are in the age of agribusiness. We are moving from the subsistence agriculture to agribusiness. And people are saying that how well are our youth keen into those initiatives?
Well, that is why I said government needs to really develop robust programs that will give the average young person a sense of belonging so that the person who is coming out of secondary school, or maybe the person who is coming out of a particular technical college, the person who is coming out from an agri-based program, we have a sense of belonging that, okay, as I'm coming out of this, there could be certain policies that will help to drive my agro potentials. So they need to develop more robust programs that will help the young person. Because these days now we can see that there are certain jobs that men do and women are more or less into them and they're also doing better. So it's not gender based. It's as far as you have the interest and the potential to drive some of this. So government need to make the programs to be more robust. You know, there's too much of political clouds that are already coming into some of these things. When you launch certain programs and politics and all that stuff are coming into it, people who are supposed to actually be in the forefront are not being given such opportunities.
And that takes me back to what we were discussing earlier on. That is the issue of nutrition and exclusive breastfeeding. As are now in Nigeria, more and more women, nursing mothers are still not embracing exclusive breastfeeding, and they're now canvassing for 6 months to actually enable a mother, let's say 6 months maternity leave, to breastfeed properly so that the child can have adequate nutrients. What is your take about this?
Yes, it's very important because there is a way God designs nature. It's just science is only trying to discover what God has put into nature. And no matter what we process from the food perspective, there are certain things that we cannot compare to the mother's breast. So it's still something that people need to look into. Breastfeeding exclusively is very, very good because there are certain nutrients that are exclusive to the mother's breast that when you give to the child, the immunity of the child is naturally enhanced. And that is why we tend to see that our older generation tend to live strong than the present day
Are you
generation.
not saying that the nutrients we are having as of now is not as quality as what they are getting then?
No, what I'm trying to say is that for a newborn baby who is being fed under such controls tends to have more immunity. What we have more of these days are convenient foods that are being processed. And when you process, to a large extent, some sizable chunk of nutrients are etched out during the processing. So people can do enrichment supplementation, but sometimes it will not be adequate enough.
All right, still talking about this COVID-19, as people are living with it, with pending the time that we have a vaccine and a cure for it, what are those things that we should start taking to build the immune system?
All right. Like I earlier opined, I said fruits and vegetables are one of the classes of food that we can have some of those nutritional components that actually builds our immunity. If you look at it from our societal level, uh, people have been concocting a whole lot of stuff, garlic, ginger, spices. They all still belong to that class of food because they have certain components that helps to build our immunity. For example, one of the things that COVID-19 does is that the virus tends to break down the immune system. They try to evoke certain radicals in the system. But some of these spices, some of these garlic, the ginger, the fruit and the veggies, they have the capacity to scavenge for those radicals and help to boost our immunity.
All right, Dr. Oladoji, what are your parting shots on this issue of nutrition?
Right?
What are your final words on this issue of nutrition?
Well, I would like to say that there should be increased awareness for nutrition across board, the old, the neonates, the young, the old, to continue to take balanced diet. And as you advance with age, you should also know what your age requires for certain nutrients so that you can live a healthy life.
Thank you so much for coming on the M Cafe. We have been talking to Dr. Bola Oladoji. He is a nutritionist and a food security expert, and he has been sharing his thought with us on COVID-19 and nutrition. I'd like to take a breather. When we come back, it's the time for newspaper review. Don't go anywhere.